The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative. On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Dick Morris, Doug DeBarros Show, sponsored by Patriot Gold. Our good friend Jack Haney at Patriot Gold. Hi, Dick. How are you today?
I had to memorize those lines.
It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It was written on a chalkboard outside, but it was in reverse, so I had to...
I think you've been studying all weekend for that.
By the way, let's just talk about this parade. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
The lockdown all over, and Mandami is not going to be there.
Yeah.
Right. And another thing with Mancami, moron Mancami, he does not think if the Knicks win, he will not have a parade. So he said, I don't know. Could you imagine what a creepy dude
and the Knicks now are in the final.
Yeah, what a creepy dude.
We'll see.
Moron.
Meantime, Percent says no sanctions relief for Iran until enriched uranium is handed over. This is very crucial. The negotiations with Iran have reached a point where basically everything is settled except for the fate of the uranium they've already enriched. And this was a brilliant concept by Trump that we should not be asking them, begging and pleading for them to say, we swear we won't develop a bomb. We don't want to have a bomb. Mm-hmm. This enriched uranium is entirely for our nuclear reactors that don't need it, that we don't need when we have all this oil. But the point is that Trump is now saying, until you pass over this uranium, we're not making a deal. And the concept of the deal has changed. It is no longer entirely opening the Straits of Hormuz. And from the beginning, that was kind of like the Blazing Saddles scene, where the black sheriff says,
shut up, I'll kill him.
Don't shoot, shut up, I'll kill the sheriff. I'm going to shoot the sheriff.
He didn't say sheriff, but whatever. Yeah, we all know what he said.
And everybody says,
that was hilarious.
Everybody says, oh, come on, he means what he says.
And he's holding the gun to himself.
Holding the gun to himself.
That was great.
And that the Straits of Hormuz thing reminds me of that. The U.S. said that unless you cooperate, we will close the Straits of Hormuz, we will raise our own gas prices, we will create a worldwide shortage of oil, and that will cause pain to Iran, but it also cause pain to us. So now Trump is saying, no, we're going to let the straits be open. We won't let you charge a toll. Mm-hmm. They can be free flow. I'm going to hold down the world flight price of oil. But you're not getting a dime from us of the $24 billion we have in the U.S. of frozen Iranian assets. And the more the embargo continued, it's becoming clear that what Iran wants is the cash.
The former president, like Barack Obama, couldn't get that cash to him, could he?
Yeah, right. So that it's becoming clear that what they want is the money. And opening the straits is nice. They would like to sell their oil. Mm-hmm. But ultimately what they want is the money. And the reason they want to sell their oil is, of course, money. So now Trump is saying no dust, no dollars. Unless you release the nuclear uranium you have enriched and give it to the U.S. or to another country
England.
we agree to.
I think he was saying maybe the UK. Go on.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I'm not going to really pay you $1 of your frozen assets.
And the reason for that is because for 40 years, that's what they do. Okay, ceasefire, let's talk, we'll have negotiations. And then they blow something up or they do something. They just stall for time.
Now Besant says nothing is on the table until we see the Straits of Hormuz open and the Iranians agree they have to turn over highly enriched uranium and they can't have a nuclear weapon. That's the first, that is necessary for there to be anything on the table.
Right.
And asked what Trump would do, he said it's always impossible to predict. One can see the president very clearly state his three prerequisites.
And the president...
Open straight, highly enriched uranium, and no nuclear program.
And he also said that Trump's not going to make a bad deal for the American people. That's it. And that's what he does.
And at the same time, the price of gas for American motorists has dropped 12 cents this week.
A little more than that.
14, I think, or something like that. Uh-huh. And that's significant. And the price of Brent crude, the oil, is now down below $100 a barrel. And increasingly, the world is adjusting to the closures of the Strait of Hormuz. So I think that what Trump is doing really is basically raising the stakes with Iran and saying, unless you turn over everything you've done in the last 30 years in defiance of international community,
Sure.
unless you turn it over to us or to a neutral country, we are not going to give you a penny.
That's it.
No dust, no dollars. And
Yeah,
I think
because
that's-
they'll stall him for weeks,
Right.
or more, and he knows.
And he's basically saying now, I don't care if you open the straits, close the straits.
Right.
If you open them, I won't let you charge a toll for them. But the point is that you can open them or close them. There is no deal unless I see dust.
Right, and we
Unless
have
I see
oil,
the-
right?
Yeah,
I wonder what the backroom deal is with all these oil rig guys and refineries. They must be opening up. Trump must be talking to people that want to open up refineries that can refine our oil.
Yeah, of course.
You know, that as we talk
Well,
about.
but
I
we
just
have-
don't know.
We have plenty of oil. The U.S. produces about 14% of the world's oil. No, more.
I think it's more than that.
30%.
But that's not it though. It's refining it. We cannot refine our oil. We are set up to refine the mud oil we get from Venezuela.
That's Venezuela, but we have plenty of good oil.
Right.
The other thing that's going on is that the paralysis in Iran is stopping any kind of deal from being done. It's almost impossible now to negotiate with Iran. The chronic order of governance inside Iran is what's holding any kind of negotiation. An inability to make timely, decisive, and rapid decisions. Also, they know that if they make a decision that the mullahs don't like, they get killed. Under such circumstances, the Trump administration may need to exercise greater transparency and caution in negotiations. Whether the U.S. reaches a deal with the Islamic Republic or not, Iran will rash out in retaliation and try to assassinate Trump and his family. But the paralysis goes to bureaucratic paralysis. Even simple administrative tasks are mired in delays and contradictory actions. The image of a hesitant and insecure structure is eroding any public confidence. And most importantly, the Supreme Leader's prolonged disappearance fuels rumors that he's either incapacitated or dead amid a tense geopolitical climate. Under such circumstances, the Trump administration may need to exercise greater transparency and negotiation in negotiations. When the actual chain of command remains uncertain, and even regime-affiliated outlets openly acknowledge the paralysis and fragmented decision-making, vague assurances from Iranian negotiators could produce misunderstandings and will not produce a deal.
Did you hear that? I think, I don't know how true this is, that Trump was opened up a bar for the Iranian leaders, and he's giving them shots until they're bombed.
Okay.
Come on, that was good.
Besant says that the Iranian economy is collapsing and more pain is coming. He said that that Iran is absolutely falling apart. Troops are not getting paid. Police are not reporting for work. Karg Island, their refinery, is shut down. The Iranian economy and currency are in free fall. He said that the Iran-Persian Strait authorities joke, and today's Treasury has sanctioned it. We've warned any corporate or state entities against paying tolls or hiding them as aid payments. Forming a wall of steel, the U.S. naval blockade has ensured a record low amount of uranium crude coming in the water. And just recently there was a report that there are 100 million barrels of oil on ships that have been blocked from coming into the straits. So the embargo is working. It's one of the more brilliant anti-war measures you can imagine. Everybody said to Trump, bomb the hell out of him, bomb him back to the Stone Age. And he basically said, it's my pleasure to do that, but every time I bomb them, they make do with less. They let their society collapse. They let their economy collapse.
What do you think is
they
going to
let everything fall apart. And therefore, the only thing that I'm going to do is I'm not going to give them a dime as their economy is falling apart. unless they give me the nuclear dust.
Get them in the wallet.
But what this does basically is it takes 30 years of U.S. policy, 30 years of mistakes under Obama and under Bush, and basically walks it back and says, you give me the enriched uranium and then go away. But I need that enriched uranium. And putting his eye on that ball is absolutely key. This is not a question of what Iran says or what Iran commits to. It's a question of what happens with that enriched uranium.
And what Trump is going to do about it, not what Iran's going to do about it, what he's going to do. But he must have some great people in his ear, to give him this kind of information. I mean, obviously he does what he's going to do, and he's a decision maker. But all these years of Obama and all these different administrations that just let these guys get away with everything they've gotten away with.
Yeah,
and he's not letting that happen.
Yeah, but at the start, the United States kept saying, we want you to commit not to have a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, sure.
And Iran said, we'll commit to that.
No problem. Uh-huh.
And then they said, we want you to promise you won't have a nuclear weapon. Okay, we promise.
I cross my heart and hope to die.
Yeah, but in the meantime, enrich.
Yeah, no kidding.
And now Trump is basically saying, I want that uranium.
I want to see it.
I want to own it.
That's
I want to have it.
I want to see it.
I want to sit in Fort Knox right next to my gold supply.
I want to see the buckets of uranium. Right.
So
the DOJ is going to dismiss this bogus, seditious conspiracy charge with the Proud Boys. The Trump Department of Justice on Friday moved to dismiss that conspiracy charges against the Proud Boys for their actions on January 6th. This was long overdue. The Biden regime, Democrats, and the legacy media openly lied to the American public to create an entire narrative about January 6th that was utterly false. They all knew it was false, but ran with it anyway. The Gateway pundit ran a clip in February of 25 detailing how the deceitful men and women of the Biden DOJ attempted to pressure Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio to lie in order to get President Trump. To his credit, Enrique refused to play a part in the evil scheme, so they sentenced him to 22 years in prison. Oh, my goodness gracious. In kangaroo court. If that wasn't bad enough, the only evidence the DOJ was able to produce to indict the Proud Boys was a document titled 1776 Returns. That was written by the FBI and then inserted into the Proud Boys chat group to indict the pro-Trump group. Wow, this is unbelievable.
So this entire concept
unbelievable.
Of right-wing extremism, of a fascist takeover, of the Charlottesville, Virginia riots. That the entire basis of the Biden candidacy was on 2 or 3 national presidential events was not only not true, it was material created by the progressives, the bad guys, and planted on the Proud Boys to try to create the national narrative that they were trying a right-wing takeover.
I want to see something happen. The consequence to those people that they know who did this. They know who figured out, who wrote these things up. And if they know. I want to see someone go to jail, or I want to see a trial about this. I don't want this. It just keeps going away for some. We talk about this a lot. And we say, this has happened, and they're going to indict this one, and they're going to indict that one. But I don't see any trials. I don't see any people in handcuffs.
Well, I think you will see Brennan in handcuffs.
I hope so.
I think you will see trials. But the important point here is that the entire narrative of the Biden campaign, the entire narrative of the Biden presidency, the entire narrative really of the anti-Trump effort, the Trump derangement, is entirely based on a lie.
But based on lies. Many lies, not a lie, many lies.
The main lie that there's a right-wing conspiracy.
Oh, yeah, right.
I was talking once to my neighbor in Connecticut, and I said, when you look at all the stuff that they're doing, how can you be opposed to Trump? He said, I'm as worried about right-wing extremism as left-wing extremism. And I said, there is no right-wing extremism. He said, of course there is. There's constantly that. And it's that myth, it's that fear that inspired Biden to give several TV addresses. It was the basis of Biden's campaign. And now it turns out that not only was it a lie, it was a plant. and that this stuff was planted on the right wingers to encourage the notion of a conspiracy.
I want to see
and then
indictments.
connect this with the Charlie Kirk assassination. And you see the connection between them.
Wow, yeah, I want to see indictments myself. All right, we have to take a break. When we get back, we'll talk more about this.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DeBarros Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Sounds like you memorized that, too.
Yeah, I've worked all weekend on it. Trump administration says green card applicants have to return to their home country to get lawful status.
The administration announced on Friday new guidance for green card hopefuls in the United States that mandates they must return to their home country before seeking permanent lawful status. The Department of Homeland Security claims the current policy, which allows immigrants in the country on temporary visas to apply for permanent legal status from within the U.S., is a loophole that opens the system up for abuse. That's the problem right now.
The day after they said that, they clarified, oh, no, we're not saying everybody has to return to their home country. We're just saying that we've always had the authority to demand that someone come to their home country, and now we're going to use it more.
Right. And I'm sorry, you want me to go?
Yeah.
An alien who is in the U.S. temporarily and wants a green card must return to their home country to apply, DHS said in a statement. This policy allows our immigration system to function as the law intended instead of incentivizing loopholes. The era of abusing our nation's immigration system is over. The development comes amid the Trump administration's effort to reduce immigration levels, including by deporting illegal immigrants. The White House border czar, Holman, he's great, that guy, said earlier this week that immigration and custom enforcement and federal partners have arrested 650,000 illegal immigrants since Trump took office, while 800,000 have been removed from the Justice Department, the U.S. Justice Department's move to swear in a record number of new immigration judges, and that has compounded efforts to move cases through the courts swiftly and accelerate the final removal of illegal immigrants. U.S. Citizens and Immigration Services, which falls under DHS, framed the latest policy change on green cards this week as an effort that allows our immigration system to function as the law intended it. The department said that the change would free USCIS to focus on processing other cases, including visas for victims of violent crime and home and human trafficking, and help make our system fairer and more efficient. We're returning to the original intent of the law to ensure aliens navigate our nation's immigration system properly, USCIS spokesman Zach Kaler said. What does that stand for, USCIS? Do you know, Dick?
United States Customs and Immigration Service.
Oh, I should know that. When aliens apply for their home country, I wonder how many people know that are listening to this. You know what I mean? When aliens apply from their home country, it reduces the need to find and remove those who decide to slip into the shadows and remain in the U.S. illegally after being denied residency. Non-immigrants like students, temporary workers, or people on tourist visas come to the U.S. for a short time and for a specific purpose. Our system is designed for them to leave when their visit is over, he added.
This is so important because instead of having the whole concept of searching for illegal immigrants, policing the border, arresting them, all of which is important, there is the back door. There is people who come here legally, settle here legally, and then stay.
Yeah, right.
And they don't leave when the visa's up.
Because no one's enforcing.
Yeah, and over half of the illegal immigrants in the U.S. were here on legal visas and then just overstayed the visas. And we had no system before Trump of telling who had left and who hadn't left. And as a result, we had no system to cleanse our system, really, of those who were here legally, but in effect illegally because they overstayed their visas. And now they're really changing that by saying you got to return to your host country if you want legal status.
You know, it's so important that, our law enforcement, so many people have backing from this president, from the administration. There's backing. In other words, they can enforce this. And the people that are going out to do the enforcement know they have the administration backing them, as opposed to Biden and Obama and all the other weak administrations that wouldn't back them.
Now, there is an entirely new strategy going on by Mamdani to take over New York City's housing supply and to give us a totally socialist economy. And it's a totally new strategy. It really is kind of based on the idea that China has had in its Belt and Road Initiative, where it says, we'll lend you money to build this port. We know you can't repay it, but that's okay. We'll put a lien on your property and we'll seize
when you can't
your
pay
rare earth minerals when you can't, and that's how you become a colony.
Sure.
What he's basically doing is he's stepping up code enforcement on multiple dwellings. And his goal in stepping up is not to make the housing more reasonable, more affordable, and make sure services are delivered.
To take it
but
away.
to set up the basis for confiscation.
Yeah, no kidding. This is kind of like, hold on, this is kind of like England also. With the castles, the rich people, they would put a tax on the castle.
Raise taxes when they can't pay, take
We
property.
take it, yeah. Same type of thing.
Mamdani put bad landlords on notice Tuesday, pledging to help transfer ownership of chronically neglected buildings to tenants as part of a new sprawling housing plan. When necessary, we'll take aggressive legal action to remove negligent owners and property managers, block by block. As for buildings that have suffered chronic neglect, we'll work to transfer ownership to responsible stewards. Stewards that include community land trusts, nonprofits, or even the tenant themselves.
Oh, yeah, that'll be responsible. Like the government to handle it.
This is a one-sided pro-tenant plan that does absolutely nothing for thousands of distressed, small, unstabilized property owners whose next months will be saddled with the Mamdani-engineered rent freeze from the Rent Guidelines Board. The code enforcement section in particular is all politics and no real substance. Small owners are often victimized by tenant-caused violations and denial of access to apartments. The latest Mamdani housing scheme will deepen the distress of rent-stabilized properties, the backbone of affordable housing.
Wow.
What Mamdani's doing is he's making it impossible to be a landlord in New York. He's freezing the rents. Nobody's freezing the taxes. Nobody's freezing the fuel costs. Nobody's freezing the maintenance costs.
Right.
But he is freezing the rents that they can collect. And then as more and more properties fall into trouble, more and more properties are broke, more and more landlords can't pay for the repairs, Mamdani is willing to seize the property using the code enforcement as an excuse and then transfer ownership to his favorite people.
Or the government, like the government does well.
This is a massive attempt to replace private landlords in New York with public housing. And we all know what a terrible job public housing does.
And he also, the Big Apple real estate and business leaders blasted the plan's proposal to impose a strict, listen to this, $40 an hour minimum wage for workers building city-funded affordable housing and giving nonprofits first crack at the private property sales. The twin proposals would undercut the moral imperative of adding 200,000 new homes to the city, argued this Steve Fulop, president of Partnership for New York.
So they're squeezing both ends of the deal.
Yeah.
No rent increase and no tax and no freeze on taxes. But on the other hand, encouraging all the efforts to increase the costs that the landlords face. And then when they can't do it, seize the property.
And the investors, the people that invest money into New York, are going to say, I'm not going to put any money into New York. They're squeezing them, too. They're not squeezing them. They're going to go to Texas and invest their money somewhere else.
Using city funding, we train housing activists on how to take over their buildings. Seems like a grave misuse of taxpayer dollars. Another example of the mayor inserting his far-left ideology into the budget. The overall housing plan was developed in City Hall by Caa Weaver, Caaeea Weaver.
Yeah.
Weaver, who previously called to abolish private property, was integral to the plan.
Well, she's getting it done.
His campaign promise to socialize housing is becoming a reality. He decides people who are responsible stewards are eliminating private owners by taking the property and converting it into social housing. God. That's the new phrase, not public housing.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
When pressed as to what criteria would trigger the Mandami administration to get involved in the transfer of sales, city officials were stumped. They refused to define how they define chronic when it comes to banned landlords, or whether Weaver will be the one to decide.
So you put a plan like this together, and you don't even have that figured out?
Yeah.
How we're going to figure out who's good, who's bad?
It's how Mandami takes over the city's housing supply. Mm-hmm. And bear in mind two things that animate this. First, 40% of New York's population is foreign-born. So there's no heritage of capitalism. There's no heritage of belief in the market system. Wow. And secondly, New York City has such an influx of people from around the world, at least has until now, as the financial capital of the world, that Mandami thinks he can get away with this. He thinks he can get away with so socializing the housing industry that nobody wants to come into New York, but they're going to be forced to because of the global economy.
Wait, explain, Lucy. What do you mean?
That
who's going to be forced?
Mandami is saying that when we say rich people won't move here, companies will move out.
Yeah, sure.
He says, okay, well, do it if you want, but you can't because we're the global economy. We're the center of the world.
Not for
you can't
long.
do business if you're not there. But not for long.
Not for long. Texas and Florida.
Tell them about the Exxon story.
Which one?
That the board of Exxon has just voted to leave New York City.
I don't know. I don't have that story, do you?
Yeah, you do. Number 9.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Here's another big black eye for the woeful Northeast. It's also the biggest no-brainer shareholder vote you will ever see. New Jersey is an anti-business and high-tax blue state that hates fossil fuels and brings sham climate change lawsuits against the company. Texas is a business-friendly red state with low taxes that embraces oil and gas. For a business to keep its legal thing in the state that hates their product would be an act of supreme malfeasance.
And that's why over the next decade, Exxon shareholders and workers are voting to leave New York and New Jersey.
So where's Mandami saying that people aren't going to leave? Our only question is what took so long for Exxon
they held a shareholders vote in Exxon, and 71% said leave New Jersey.
To go to Texas.
ExxonMobil shareholders crushed the evil proxy voting services in a landslide 71% vote of support for moving from New Jersey to Texas.
Wow.
In every way, this is a financially responsible and shareholder-friendly outcome. The fact that ISS and Glass Lewis urge a vote against the move only reinforces our assessment that these proxy advisors are hopelessly woke and routinely spit out rotten advice that would make shareholders poorer. It's as if they work for AOC. Our conclusion is that every bank and financial institution has a fiduciary duty to stop paying the money. Early at the year, we at UP started giving a thumbs up or thumbs down rating for banks and large financial institutions before the proxy vote on shareholder resolutions. We do it for free. We, of course, agreed a yes vote on Exxon's departure from New Jersey. So increasingly, the shareholders are overcoming the fiduciaries. The companies would say, "Oh, we're run by the shareholders," and to do that, we'll bring in fiduciaries, people who have only the best interests of the company at heart, to give the best advice they possibly can. And now the conservatives are saying, "That's not what you're doing. What you're doing is you're putting fiduciaries in charge who really aren't fiduciaries. They're ruling not in the best interests of the company. They're slavish to the woke ideology.
Really?
And what we're going to do is we're going to get shareholders to stop using you as a fiduciary service, stop paying you. And we will have votes of shareholders, which will be real democracy.
You're talking about Exxon.
And a whole bunch of companies. And they just did this with Exxon. And they said, we are now going to have votes of the shareholders of Exxon to leave New Jersey and move to Texas. And your fiduciaries tell us this is bad for the company. You shouldn't do this. And we're not only overruling them, we're firing the fiduciaries.
Are they independent workers, fiduciaries?
Yeah, they're contract.
They're contract,
yeah.
And then they get them to come in.
Yeah, and it's just the idea that they're acting in the best interests of the shareholders. In fact, they're not.
They're not.
They're slaves to the woke ideology. So increasingly, so what's going on here is Mandami is saying, you can't leave New York because of who we are, the power and prestige that we have in the global economy. And the private sector is now saying, the hell we can't. We will. We're moving. Goodbye. See you later. You're in the rearview mirror. And he's saying, but your fiduciaries, the people charged with advising you, are telling you to stay in New York. And they're saying these fiduciaries are paid for by the extreme left. They're owned by the progressive movement. So we're not going to listen to them. We're going to do this on our own. And we're going to leave New York. And we're going to leave New Jersey. And then Mandami is basically making them leave by code enforcement, by saying that I'm going to make it impossible to be a landlord.
He's in for a big surprise, this moron.
No, he's not. He's going to do exactly what he wants, which is he'll have a socialist city.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Oh, my
the city
God.
will fall apart.
Oh, my God.
Anybody who stays here is totally screwed. There won't be services. There won't be heat. There won't be repairs. There won't be anything. We'll all be run like the housing authority, which is the worst management in the world. We're going to be absolutely saddled with that. And Mandami will encourage it and will enforce that to happen by code enforcement.
Wow.
And,
I wonder what the people have voted for
and
this
at the
guy.
same time, the left will try to stop the exodus, but they won't be able to.
They won't be able to.
Because the shareholders will vote to leave.
That's it.
So this is an absolute formula for the destruction of the city.
You know,
it's brilliant.
You know, yeah, for him. But you know what? This is where we need Bruce Blakeman. I wish he was listening to us right now. He would call up. This is where we need him. We're going to break in a second, Dick. In about 30 seconds, we're going to break. This is why we need Blakeman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is why we need him as governor.
It is. It absolutely is. But Mandami is being so skillful.
Oh yeah.
He's saying, I'm not going to take over housing. I'm going to just enforce the code. I'm going to just make sure that the housing is decent, that he is provided, services are provided. Then what I'm going to do is cut off rent increases, freeze rents.
Oh, God.
And tell them, you guys make it work. And if you don't, I'll take the property. And then he's telling the companies, I don't care if you leave here. In fact, I'm going to make you leave here and make you get rid of the fiduciaries that are telling you to stay.
Wow. You think he's got people in his ear? You think he's this smart that he's doing this himself?
He may be, but this is absolutely brilliant what he's doing.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm asking that question.
If he has people in his ear, they're mousy dung.
Yeah, that's what I call him. Mousy. I call him mouse dung. Mousy dung. All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll have more jokes for you afterwards.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
You know, Dick, it's Sunday. You know what that means also is On the Rocks.
Let's hear the rocks.
Hey, Roxana Maria. How you doing?
Hi. It's on this day.
Right.
So to change the climate here a little bit, to step back in history, oh me, oh life, of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, that you are here, that life exists, and your identity, that the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse. Born today in 1819, Walt Whitman, known as an American iconic poet, journalist, and father of the free verse, wrote these words in 1867. There were many on this day historic moments that I could have shared. However, in personal freedom, I chose these two. The first U.S. copyright law passed today in 1790 seemed was of great importance, helping to establish the first foundation of protection for the work of U.S. citizens, providing the sole right for authors. President George Washington signed it into federal law today, having three main connections to this historic legislation. He urged its creation. He gave the bill federal authority. His works became a legal focal point decades later. In 1841, his own personal letters became the central landmark in a legal case defining the modern concept of fair use in U.S. copyright law. And so here we are. We're living in a world where Walt Whitman's writings, visionary George Washington still evokes emotional resonance. In politics, in modern technology of social media, AI, it continues to connect specific messages of human truth or not truths. However, it's that zing that your gut, to all the listeners, when you know something just feels right. And so we need not continue this direction of unrest, violence, fear, division, but to vote in, like they were talking about, Dick and Doug, those who will reestablish, restore, return our country to that which we recognize and remember. In George Washington's own words, in conclusion, quote, "The Constitution is the guide which I will never abandon." And so it is. But I just wanted to add one more quick thing, not that many might remember, but there was a code name, Deep Throat, during the Watergate scandal. And his name was Mark Felt. He was the former associate director of the FBI. He's the guy who leaked that sensitive information to the reporters of the Washington Post. But no one knew who he was, and then he was exposed in 2005 on this day. But for decades, his identity was guarded.
Wow.
So that's just a little bit.
I have a great
what
story to add
today.
to that.
Well, hold on. Roxana told me you were going to do this.
There's a guy named Stan Pottinger
He's great.
who died a year ago.
He's a great.
And Stan was the Deputy Attorney General under Nixon. And
Right.
he knew who Deep Throat was.
Yeah.
He had found out, he deduced it by questioning him during grand jury appearance. And his answers indicated that he probably was Deep Throat. And a grand juror asked him a question, said, "Are you Deep Throat?"
Asked Felt.
Asked Felt. "Are you Deep Throat?" And Mark Felt asked to confer with Pottinger and told Pottinger, "I am, but I can't say it."
Right.
So Pottinger got the juror to withdraw the question. And then that evening, Woodward from Woodward and Bernstein called Pottinger and said, "Let's have dinner." And they had dinner, and he told Pottinger that Deep Throat was Mark Felt.
Right.
But the reason Mark Felt was anxious to do this was that he was eager to take the FBI away from J. Edgar Hoover and to restore its fairness. And he was the deputy director of the FBI and was determined that it not be part of the Nixon-Watergate cover-up and the Nixon-Watergate scandal. Because he wanted to protect the integrity of the FBI. And he kept his identity secret for like 20 or 30 years.
Yeah.
The whole country wondered who Deep Throat was.
That's amazing.
And was this guy, and his motive was a very positive one. And he ultimately helped the FBI avoid, the FBI was going to be taken apart because everybody was going to blame it for Watergate. And Nixon would have escaped blame for Watergate because he could pin it on the FBI. And Mark Felt stopped this.
Yes,
and it wasn't exposed until 2005.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that it was kept, even though there was intense speculation, it was kept under wraps for decades.
And no, but very few people guessed that it was Mark Felt. At the very end, they did, but for a long time, they didn't.
That's amazing that you just absolutely know.
And Stan
thank you,
Roxanne. That was great. And Stan Pottinger I got to meet him quite a few times also because Dick knew him very well. He lived near you, right? In South
my
Salem.
next door neighbor.
Mm-hmm. And he was such a smart guy and great shape too. And he just passed away a year ago.
I used to tell him the job that his day job was he was the Assistant Attorney General in charge of under civil rights for Richard Nixon,
right?
The post that Dahmet now has, that wonderful woman. Uh-huh. And I said, but you were the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights under Nixon. That's a polite way of saying you were unemployed. Okay.
I thought it was Linda Lovelace.
Well, when we come back, there's more evidence that Trump corporate tax cuts are working, and we'll talk about that.
Okay, when we come back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Just a comment about the demonstrations going on in New Jersey against ICE. There was recently a very important poll that showed that when the poll asked Democrats, exclusively Democrats, do you think the party should move to the right, move to the center on issues like immigration and gender identity? And half of the Democrats said yes, it should move to the right. Half weren't sure. Some said move to the left. But 47% of the Democrats in the country said the Democratic Party needed to move to the center on this. And of course, they won't. They'll stay at the left. And the reason they're going to stay at the left is because half of their constituency wants them to stay to the left.
You really think that? Half of the people?
That's what half of the Democrats.
That's right. Half of their constituency.
And that's what the poll says.
That's a lot.
Half say yes and half say no.
I didn't think it was close to that.
So they're absolutely trapped.
Wow.
If they do move to the center, they'll lose their liberals. And if they don't move to the center, they'll lose the country. And when the left pulls off demonstrations like this crazy demonstration in New Jersey against the detention center, and when Mickey, the governor of New Jersey,
a woman,
allows it to be prolonged, this is killing the Democrats. All of these polls about is Trump going to control Congress are based on his ratings. How's he doing on inflation? How's he doing on the war? How's he doing on Iran? All of that is half of the question, less than half of the question. The other half is, how are the Democrats doing?
Yeah, right.
And increasingly, there's evidence that the Democrats are absolutely falling apart on these issues. And as you approach Election Day, the issue is not, do you approve of Trump, but do you approve of Trump or the Democrats in Congress? And increasingly on issues like immigration and gender identity, Democrats are failing that test. And we're going to do fine in the midterm elections. Trump is going to win those elections because it's clear that the Democrats are absolutely failing and will have to punt on that.
You know, Mickey Sherrill, there's half and half right there. She's got a man first name and a woman last name.
Yeah,
Mickey
true.
Sherrill. So what's going on?
True.
Hey, listen, I was at Trump Tower for breakfast this morning. First of all, you really have to go to the Trump Grill. It's the best food, I'm telling you, in the city. And the executive chef was Trump's chef, Cammie. I love her. She's unbelievable. But Barry, that runs the whole Trump Tower, he's one of the head managers there, he had a great idea. You know, we have this parade, and the parade goes up and down Fifth Avenue, and, you know, Trump Tower's on Fifth Avenue. And, man, when I tell you, there's lockdown. There's all kinds of stuff going on, impossible to get across the street. Barry said it was a great idea. Why not put the parade at 59th Street, right, at Central Park South, right, on Fifth Avenue, going north to, 110th Street is Central Park North.
Right.
Am I right with that?
Right.
To 110, make a left, go to Central Park West, and go down. You could have the parade, and everyone stands around Central Park. They're inside. That would be absolutely one of the best formulas for the parades because it destroys the city. All the businesses around town lose. You think that it builds, but it does not. All the places. So, Barry, that's a great idea. Who did we talk to?
You just did.
Right. We talked to the whole world. And then there's Zoran Mondami. I just saw the news just now while we were in break that he's not showing up at the parade. And what a creepy dude.
Meanwhile, the crown jewel of the Trump tax cut was the reduction of the tax rate on corporate profits from 35%, the highest in the world, to 21%, slightly below the global average. Now profits after the tax cut are at an all-time level compared to the size of the economy, and they began the current surge in 2019 following Trump's tax cut. He points out another hidden benefit of the corporate tax cut. Despite the sizable cut in tax rates, corporate tax payments to Treasury rose from a low of $189 billion in the 12 months ending June 19 to $516 billion in 12 months ending August 24, an increase of 173%. So, Art Laffer, take a bow. When the rates are cut, the tax revenues increase. When you raise rates, tax revenues decrease. And that was proven during the Clinton administration when he balanced the budget using that by cutting the capital gains tax rate and increasing capital gains tax. And now there's evidence that this is what happened with the Trump tax cut of his first term. And
I also want to throw out the call-in number. It's 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. And one more thing. We're talking about on the news also when we were on a break, I heard where they said it was how many years since that they were thinking about the people that are having a problem with 9/11, you know, the cleanup people and whatnot. And I want to say, God bless Rudy Giuliani. Part of his problem when he was in a hospital last month was from that. They think, you know, what did he have, a pneumonia or
pneumonia? But it was because of the stuff he inhaled.
God bless
during 9/11.
That greatest
saving
man
New York
of all time. Okay, we have to take a break. Hey, Rudy, just saying hello.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. He's been advisor to Presidents Clinton and Trump, and now he's here to advise us all. Dick Morris is on 77 WABC.
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right, here I am.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DeBarros Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
You know, Dick,
the effort to talk about conditions in the ICE detention center in New Jersey, and to promise visitation, to promise meals, to promise all kinds of stuff, is an effort to normalize the idea that these people who've committed crimes have largely been ordered deported, have stayed in the country, been rearrested, and ICE has put them in a detention facility awaiting extradition and deportation out of the country, is all an effort by the left to normalize this and to make it seem as if these are just ordinary people who've been locked up on the street and need to be protected.
And also what the left is doing here is they're trying to make it look like that getting tortured, waterboard, and they got bread and water, that's all you got.
And they're not. And these are people who have all committed one crime and basically now committing two.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And but the left has to make it sound like, oh my God, just like with the sanctuary cities, and what they do is they open up hotels for these people, and
But it's ultimately helping Trump because
absolutely
the Democrats don't want their party to do that.
And they look foolish.
Half of them want their party to move to the center.
Right.
You split the Democratic Party right down the middle when you do this.
They look like little babies sometimes, the way they talk. Listen, we got Mike from St. James speaking about sanctuary states. Oh, Mike, what's up? How you doing? Hello, Michael. Are you there? Mike from St. James? No good? Did we lose him, Matt? We lost him. All right, let's take Sandra. She's got something good. You were coming after him anyway, Sandra. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I attempted to go to the parade, but there was no way you can get in. The roads were all blocked.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah. So I wanted to give a nice report on Donald Trump's health. Not everyone's going to be happy, but most of us will be, that he has a beautiful bill of health. He's very, very healthy. He's 79 years old. He weighs 238 pounds. He's 6'3" tall. His blood pressure is 105 over 71.
105 over 71?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
No, that can't be.
Wait, let me read this again. Hold on.
Yeah, no, she's right.
That could be. That's
He's
pretty
very
low,
healthy.
that high
Yeah.
number.
He's running the world.
It says here 105/71. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway,
No,
Wow,
really?
that's
Anyway,
great. No, you can have that.
That's fantastic.
Go
That's
on.
amazing.
yeah,
Sandra.
okay. So he has very strong cardiac, pulmonary, neurological, and everything is terrific
That
in
guy's
that
brilliant.
part. He's able to do all the physical functions during his.
How many 80-year-olds would love to get a report like that?
Yeah.
It's
Now, wait,
unbelievable.
It gets better.
Okay.
So his cognitive and physical performance is excellent. He continues to have slight lower leg swelling, much less than last year. So that's improved. Now, let me tell you something. He gets those hand bruises because I believe those handshakes. As a recruiter, I would always tell my candidates, make sure you give a firm handshake. That's what he's doing all the time. And that's why his
Thank you.
hands are getting blue.
Thank you,
So, and
Sandra.
then that's it.
Take
okay.
care. Yeah, that's it. I agree with that. But we have
We got Jonathan DeBarros on.
Yeah.
And
Now this guy is running for Congress in Connecticut, and he's running in Waterbury and in Danbury, and he's a black Republican running in the primary, and the Republican Party establishment is trying to push a guy named Shays, who is running, largely I think on strength of a name recognition of confusion, people thinking he's the former congressman, but he's not, and I think that Richard has a wonderful chance of winning.
you're talking about John DeBarros?
John DeBarros.
John.
Yeah, John has a wonderful chance of winning, and it's in a district that used to be Republican. The district he's running in was Republican for many years.
And then it went
and
to...
then went Democrat, and now he's trying to take it back.
So, Jonathan, are
Hey,
you
Jonathan.
on? How are you?
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak to your listening audience, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, John.
So tell us about the convention of the state where they tried to keep you off the ballot, but you insisted and you now are running.
Well, the GOP establishment in Connecticut hasn't won a federal election in over 20 years, and now I see why. They ran 3 rhinos against me trying to split the delegate votes. I had to go to 41 cities and towns, to all the Republican town committees in my district, in the 5th Congressional District. And some of them I was blackballed. I couldn't even go into because they already established who they wanted to run on the ticket. They had a polished politician, well, not a polished politician, but a polished Navy SEAL who they're trying to transform into a politician to basically grift. It's a political grift. They just want to make as much money as they possibly can. And then when they lose, they could blame the cities once again.
Right.
I'm the first candidate on the Republican line that has been campaigning aggressively against the Democrats on their own turf. I call them all out. I call out the governor. I call out William Tong, who's our attorney general, who has been filing countless lawsuits.
Let me just say, the reason that I love your candidacy is that we're sitting here in the aftermath of a Supreme Court decision, Louisiana versus Calais, which insists that you cannot use race. You can't gerrymander districts based on race. You can't gerrymander to increase black governance, black congressman. And the result is that you have virtually all the congressmen, I think all the congressmen in America who are black are Democrat. And the point is that we no longer need race to keep black participation. If we didn't gerrymander these districts and we had free districts where blacks and whites could both run, candidates like Jonathan would win. And I think we should demonstrate that by having the Republican Party elect a black as the congressman for Waterbury, for Danbury, and so on.
And who are you going to go after once you become congressman, Jonathan? And before you even answer that, do you have a site for people to go on to, whether they fund you or whatever they need to do? Do you have something?
Yes, please. My website is DeBarros for Congress at gmail.com. That's my email address, but my website is DeBarrosforcongress.org.
How do you spell your last name?
It's D as in David, E as in Edward, B as in boy, ARROSFOR Congress.org. That's my website, and there's contribution links on that page. You could donate to me on WinRed, Anodot. Also, if you want to send a check, the P.O. box is there.
Beautiful.
But you just have to download a form that's attached so that you can send in your form. So when I do my my quarterly filings with the FEC, everything's on board.
This is the seat that was represented before by what was his name? Frank, the black Gary Franks, yep, who was a very good congressman and was defeated. And they used to have a meeting of the Black Caucus in the House. And it was 39 Democrats and 1 Republican, Gary Franks.
Wow.
Then the Connecticut legislature gerrymandered the district further and made it impossible for Franks to win re-election.
So, John,
now Jonathan is running.
Yeah, I want to know
it's very important that he win.
I want to know his platform. What do you got, Jonathan?
Hey, my platform is all about putting the teeth back in law enforcement's mouth so they could do their job. Securing our borders. We got over 200,000 illegals currently residing in our state. I want to enforce federal law in the 5th Congressional District and let ICE do their job.
Good.
In the state of Connecticut, they passed a bill in which our local law enforcement and our state law enforcement cannot cooperate with ICE, which I feel as though is unconstitutional. And if I was law enforcement in the state of Connecticut, I would have lost my job already. So I'm going to enforce federal law. I'm going to protect the homeschool parents. They're violating their constitutional liberties as well, and they're actually forcing them now to get vaccinated, adults and children.
Really?
So yes.
Really? Tell us about that.
Yeah, tell us about this vaccination. What, the new COVID they're talking about, which isn't real also?
Yeah, so they just passed a new bill in our state capitol in which they're going to start requiring, if there's ever another pandemic, as we know, but they're going to try to force adults and children to have to get vaccinated. And the way they're probably going to go about doing that is to make sure that the businesses, so they'll lose it. If you don't get vaccinated, you lose your job. So, and then they'll put penalties probably on the businesses. So this is what they're gearing up for. They just passed a new Glock ban in which they're taking Glocks away from
gun owners.
Gun owners.
Wow.
And they pushed out a lot of gun manufacturers out of our state, and a lot of gun owners, gun stores are going out of business. So their whole plan is to push a communist Marxist agenda in our state, and they want to disarm American citizens in our state. But look at this. In the city of Danbury, where we have a mayor who came to our country proudly, illegally, became a citizen. Now he's the mayor and he's the chairman of the state Democratic Party. He just made it lawful that DACA children to become police officers in the city of Danbury.
What's his name?
So now, Roberto Elves, Mayor Elves.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy's a freaking psychopath. So you're going to tell me you're going to disarm American citizens but give guns to DACA children so that they could arrest American citizens?
Wow.
Incredible. Well, thank you, Richard. Enjoyed having you on.
It's John.
John
John
sorry.
DeBarros. He keeps calling you
Keep
Richard
getting your name wrong.
because he's looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
Richard Morris.
Good. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
you.
John. We'll keep you in. One more time with your website or whatever.
So my website is DeBarrosforcongress.org. That's D as in David, E as in Edward, B as in boy, ARROSFOR Congress.org. And I was with Rudy Giuliani last evening celebrating his birthday at America's first warehouse in Long Island.
Oh,
We had a great time with
Rudy.
Rudy.
I love Rudy. I used to see him all the time on Sunday. Okay. Thank you, John. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you, John. I'll get your name right.
Yeah. Thank you.
A federal judge on Thursday cleared the way for Donald Trump to implement executive order tightening mail-in voting, slapping down Democratic arguments for now that federal efforts to police voter rolls with citizenship checks were illegal. U.S. District Court Judge Carl Nichols, a Trump-appointed jurist, ruled that Democrats failed to show that they have standing at present to challenge the order. But Nicholas rejected several. But the point is that he cleared the way for Trump's citizenship checks. This is the effort that Doug DeBarros here has done a great deal to make sure that only citizens are voting.
Yeah.
And we need this very badly in the midterm elections. You also have Trump's SAVE bill, which requires voter ID to register, and it's a federal law for federal elections. And increasingly, the group of Republicans in the Senate have opposed a filibuster rule and let the filibuster continue to kill the SAVE Act. And their rationale is simply that what will happen one day when the Democrats take over the Senate, we need the filibuster to stop them from admitting Puerto Rico as a state and doing all kinds of horrible things. But the fact of the matter is that we are not losing the Senate. We're going to keep the Senate in this election. I think we'll expand our lead in the Senate. And I think that and therefore the president is right for pushing the SAVE Act. And a big factor in his decision to endorse Ken Paxton for Senate and oppose the rhinos is his desire to see the SAVE Act passed. And I think now they're going to do it. They're going to do it by a procedure with a reconciliation where they can do it bypassing the filibuster. And if the SAVE Act is passed, it makes a huge difference in the elections. When you combine Trump's deportation of millions of illegal immigrants, and you combine the Supreme Court's decision that districts should be drawn not based on race, and then you pass the SAVE Act that requires voter ID, there is no way in hell the Democrats will win the midterm elections.
You know what, Dick? My system will work 1,000 times better now, where basically what I put together in the 24, right, was signs all over the areas where we were worried about illegals coming in and voting. 21 million, I think, right? We were told they could vote, the motor voter. We put all over the place, whether it be those trucks with the digital signs or regular signs or billboards that said, if you vote, if you're legal and you vote, we're gonna track you, we're gonna find you, we're gonna throw you out of the country, all kinds of stuff, So I believe so many people that read these signs that were illegals or friends of said, whoa, stay home, drink your beer and watch the soccer game. But hold on. And what I'm saying is now what Trump is saying and how he's going about with this deportation, that'll really work.
Right.
We put signs up.
It really will. And you have to realize that the nation has had a vast decrease in population in the blue states, a vast increase in the red states. We don't know the full extent of it because the 2030 census will give us that data. But this is a massive change. 2 or 3 million people have left California. Almost 2 million have left New York State. Wow. They moved to Florida. They moved to Texas.
The problem is they're going to vote
No,
blue.
they're not.
I know
they're
going
to vote red. And the point is that you're dealing with huge, gigantic, permanent changes in the country's demography. And that combined with SAVE Act, combined with the enforcement of citizenship, combined with all of this stuff, is basically changing our Congress from a cliffhanger 50-50 to a massive Republican win.
Listen, we got to take a break. We'll talk more about this when we get back. This is very interesting.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Dick Morris, Doug DeBarros Show.
Sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. AI, artificial intelligence, is actually driving a hiring boom. It's not driving people out of work as people have feared. AI has dramatically lowered the cost of writing code. So it's now being used across more businesses, industries, and use applications and use cases. We're at the beginning of a massive productivity boom from the proliferation of software throughout the entire economy. Coding has been the AI breakout use case this year. The fact that it's increased demand for software engineers rather than decreased it should call into question the entire AI will cause massive job losses. Our advice to young people who want to get ahead in the 21st century is learn data structures and how to code. The whole cycle on AI is reminiscent of all technology that's been introduced, where the establishment says, oh, this is going to cost jobs, this is going to kill us. And the same thing with every industry. The technical advances increase employment, they don't decrease it.
You know, years ago, I worked in the city all my life, get on a train. And I remember when the ticket takers, all of a sudden they had the machines where you can get the tickets from the machine. And I was sitting with a guy and he goes, oh my God, we're going to lose jobs and this and that. I go, no, you're not. Those people that are at the stations that take the tickets, they're going to lose their jobs. But jobs are going to start up with people that build those machines, people that have to deliver those machines, that have to maintain those machines. And the guy looked at me, and he was a business guy. He was a suit, an older dude. And he goes, you know what? You got something there. And that's the same thing here. You need, just like you said, when some technology comes out, you need people to learn how to program that stuff, fix that stuff, build the buildings for this electrical stuff that makes these things happen. Absolutely.
And in all cities in the country other than New York, technology improves productivity.
Absolutely.
And creates jobs. Not in New York, because we're mere mandami. But in the rest of the country it does. And I think that this is absolutely a change in the way the economy is functioning. And it's going to be very, very positive for employment.
Absolutely. And people that are looking for employment, young kids that are thinking about school, all right, go to school for that type of thing, but also go to school as a carpenter, as a mechanic, as an HVAC guy. You want a job, you'll have a job building buildings and fixing cars and whatnot. There's going to be a lot of jobs out there. So this is all, it's also the scare tactic that people like to use. Oh, my God, look what's going on. What are you going to do? You're not going to stop this technology.
Trump is on a jihad now against the NATO countries that have done nothing to help us with our energy embargo against Iran. We're doing this embargo in the first place because of the Straits of Hormuz that the U.S. does not need. We domestically have our oil and gas. We don't need the Straits of Hormuz.
That's right.
We're doing this to help other countries. And the other countries, the NATO countries that we're helping, are doing absolutely nothing to help us.
Is this 14 we're talking about?
Yeah.
All right. So the enemies of the United States have learned that President Trump is not to be taken lightly. And according to the German news outlet report Tuesday, the country's allies are getting the same message from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Action have consequences, just like elections, that Barack Obama said. Furious and frustrated with the North American treaty alliance that only seems to go away, the Trump administration is cutting the number of weapon systems it's willing to contribute to NATO actions. In the air, the U.S. will have...
half.
I thought it was a typo. In the air, the U.S. will half the number of strategic bombers.
Half the number of strategic bombers it makes available for the alliance. It'll reduce the number of fighter jets by a third. At sea, the Navy will contribute fewer destroyers and cut out submarines entirely. And when it comes to reconnaissance drones, the Europeans will have to come up with their own. It isn't hard to see why. The so-called allies have been a no-show for the U.S. in fighting with Iran. Beholden to their own swelling Muslim populations and historical antipathy toward Israel, NATO countries have been unwilling to insist in any meaningful way. As the leftist UK Guardian reported Friday, Spain refused to allow U.S. bases in the country or its airspace to be used for the attack on Iran, while France only allowed airstrikes, air tankers, and other support aircraft to be used from the
Easter
Air Base in the south. The UK permitted the U.S. Air Force to bomb uranium missile launchers and any other military assets, but it's the furthest any country has gone in allowing U.S. bombing. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, meanwhile, in April, said Trump is being humiliated by the Iranians while offering precious little to help. As the Associated Press reported in April, Germany has offered minesweepers to help clear the Straits of Hormuz, but the offer is good only when the fighting is over.
Yeah.
With friends like that, who needs alliances? The Daily Mail, a conservative news outlet, described the European reaction to the headline as panic. The U.S. government accounts for roughly 62% of total defense spending in NATO, with an annual military budget of almost $1 trillion.
Wait, let's just say that again. 62, 2/3. That's what we're popping up. That's what we're putting down.
Right. And 62%. There are 32 countries in NATO. In one country, the U.S. pays almost 2/3 of the bill.
Unbelievable.
And for the oversized contribution, what does it get for it? Talk to the hand.
Refusal to cooperate from Spain and France. So we pay 2/3, and then Spain and France drink their wine and whatever Spain does. A limited grudging willingness to go along from the UK and from Germany, it gets unconstructive results. That's nothing particularly new. Of course, the Europeans have shown a similar lack of enthusiasm to help the United States and Israel for generations. During 73 Yom Kippur War, for instance, the United States supplied Israel with vitally needed military equipment by air, and its European allies expect Portugal. Hold on a second. European allies, except for Portugal, closed their airspace. For 32 days, the U.S. Air Force flew weapons, ammunition, tanks, and artillery from the U.S. to the Portuguese-controlled Azores.
And then to Israel, crossing the Mediterranean in its center to avoid the airspace of allies in the north and hostile nations to the south. Other American presidents have gotten used to the idea that the NATO alliance is a one-way street, essentially permitting the American taxpayer to foot the bill for European defense, which in turn allows European governments to use their own money to pay for social welfare programs, which will attract large numbers of Muslim immigrants and make their countries more and more pro-Muslim. And what Trump is doing basically is saying, if you want American protection, you got to pay for it. You got to protect yourself.
Pay up.
And when Trump announced he was pulling 5,000 NATO troops out of Germany and transferring them to Poland, noting that Germany wasn't helping the U.S. in the war and Poland was, and that NATO was frustrated by the German refusal to help them. Why do we have 30,000 plus U.S. troops in NATO in Germany and none in Poland?
Right.
And he's calling to change that, and that is sending the Europeans into a total and complete panic.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Pay up, pal. You want something? Pay up.
Right.
That's what we're going to do. So let's go to the phones. What do you say, Dick? Jack in New York. What's up, Jack?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good.
Hi. I was just looking to get an answer on the supremacy clause and how it relates to sanctuary cities. Why are the cities, the blue states, able to do this, to create sanctuary city law? I mean, there's no sanctuary city law.
Yeah,
correct?
I don't think they should be. I think the Supreme Court will knock that down. I would expect in the next term you'll see cases that will stop cities and states from banning federal law enforcement in their areas. The reason the court hasn't acted yet is that there is no challenge to it. The federal government has the right to enforce its laws, and states and cities do, but the federal supremacy remains. And now I think that the demonstrators and the crazies and the left, the woke left, are demonstrating, and you have this detention center in New Jersey. It's very clear that they are trying to upend the supremacy clause of the Constitution. But the supremacy clause is very, very clear. State and local acts cannot be supreme to federal policies. And nowhere is this more evident than in immigration. And I think that you're absolutely right. And was named Jack. And
yes.
Yeah, and I think, Jack, that you're going to see the Supreme Court coming this way.
I sure hope so. I can't believe it hasn't been done yet. That's the thing that just gnaws at me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it hasn't been done yet in part because you don't have, first you haven't had Trump challenging it, and now you do. And the local DAs and the local prosecutors are going to side with the sanctuary types. But I think now it's absolutely become intolerable, and we have got to reinforce the idea of federal supremacy on ICE. I think you're going to see that. And bear in mind, Jack, that 3 million illegals have been deported in the United States, despite sanctuary city legislation. Another million have voluntarily left. But why is the crime rate down? Why are there fewer murders? Why is every city, including New York, safer than it used to be? Because of deportation.
Because just don't have backing by the administration.
Yeah, we just don't have as many criminals in the United States because we're deporting them.
You know, a lot of people want to know about the sanctuary city stuff. We got Joseph in Connecticut that wants to also talk about sanctuary cities. Hey, Joseph.
Well, good day, Dick and Doug. First of all, Mr. DeBarros would be a godsend. It would be a total blessing to the state if he could get elected. It would be fantastic.
Where were you located, Joe?
I'm in Fairfield, town of Fairfield.
Beautiful.
And I worked as assistant registrar and other jobs for many years, so I see the possibility, almost the impossibility of a Republican getting elected, but that's another story. I do want to talk about sanctuary cities and what Secretary Mark Mullen has done, trying to take customs out of the airports where in the sanctuary cities. Now, something that I think I was thinking about that maybe we overlooked. We focused on those illegals coming in over the borders, whether it's Mexico or Canada. What about the people that are flying in here to sanctuary cities and then they're gone? The demographics of New York, I lived in the Bronx for 40 years. How did the demographics change so much? I've been up here 30 years. How did it change so much that they got this guy elected as the mayor? How did the demographics, in my town, in my little town, I lived...
40% of all New Yorkers were not born in the United States.
That's a big part of this.
We covered that earlier in the show. There is increasingly an effort to, the INS, the ICE, Homeland Security, just ruled that if you're in the United States on some tourist visa or work permit, you got to return to your home country
after you've
in order to apply for citizenship. And that's increasingly going to cause a crackdown on that for those folks.
And what else are you talking about, Joe?
Well, if I go down to the Bronx, and I like I said,
Arthur Avenue?
Years ago. Well, yeah, near Arthur Avenue, Pelham Parkway, Allison Avenue. I used to belong to the Knights of Columbus and Mont Carmel there, so I know Arthur Avenue. I taught at Fordham for 20 years, so I know that very well. There's a siren here. So when I go down there and I see the demographics totally changed within the last 15 years, how does that happen? How many people, if you go walk through that area, College Parkway, Allerton Avenue, Morris Park, you can see a big difference. It used to be mostly Italian, Irish, Jewish, Puerto Rican, and black. The demographics are totally different. How did that happen in 15 years, maybe 20, not even? It happened so fast. My theory is they're flying in to sanctuary cities and they're not being sort of followed and they're loose. They're all over the place. You can go down there, it looks like the Middle East.
Half of all people who were illegal before Trump took office, I don't know about now, came here legally and overstayed their visa. And I think that's what you're saying.
You know, Astorino took pictures at Westchester Airport like after midnight when the government, the federal government, was sending people from Westchester Airport, you know, illegals and all type of people, all to different cities in New York.
Yeah.
You know, upstate.
Well, that's how Minnesota came to be. That's how Minnesota became a Somalian country.
Right.
And the
talk about that. That was Barack Obama, wasn't it?
Yeah. And the whole idea was that everybody said, what we've got to do is to protect these Somalians. They're being discriminated against.
Yeah, okay,
There's
whatever.
a civil war going on in Africa. We've got to provide them with sanctuary. And as a result, the Bush administration opened the doors, Biden administration opened the doors, and we had millions, hundreds of thousands of Somalis come into the U.S., not under the immigration laws, not even by flouting the laws, but admitted legally as refugees.
Isn't inbred Omar Somalian?
Exactly.
Yeah, inbred.
And what Biden did was that he flew them to Minnesota, and he deliberately created a pocket in Minnesota.
Wow.
That the left would control because of the Somalian refugees.
And that was like $9 billion later.
Yeah. And he did that, and then they stole money. They supported themselves by cracking open the federal treasury and setting up welfare programs run by the state, protected by the state, protected by the Democrats in the state capitol and Waltz.
And the learning center that they couldn't even spell it properly. Some learning center,
and the dyslexic
Leering Center,
children's center, and there weren't any children there. And so the scam was, say that Somalia is in serious trouble, demand that the caps on refugee admissions be lifted because of their humanitarian needs. Let them all into the country, fly them to Minnesota, let them settle there, and let them establish a democratic foothold in a swing state that would make Minnesota no longer a swing state and make it a left-wing democratic state.
Did the Biden administration have legislation pushed to that, or he just did it?
Did not need legislation. He did it because of the president's power,
right,
to regulate refugees. And by calling a refugee program and not immigration,
that's the loophole.
He was able to do a loophole and let everybody in. Trump has now closed that, but after the country of Somalia, basically,
how many in Minnesota?
Over 1 million, but I'm
over
not sure.
1 million. I thought you were going to say 100,000, 80,000.
No. It's huge, and that's how this. That's how what's her name,
Omar, inbred Omar. She married her brother, father, son.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
That's how she got elected.
Yeah.
And we need to deport her. We need to deport her for immigration fraud that I think will be very effective.
All right, we have to take a break. Thank you, Joe. That was great. Thank you very much. We're going to take a break.
This is the Dick Morris Show on 77 WABC. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug DeBarros Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. You know, we have seen in the last couple of weeks how little inflation is actually controlling the vote in the midterm elections. Everybody was freaked at the idea that with the Iran war, gas prices would go up, and they did go up by about 60 or 70 cents a gallon. But now they've come down. These gas prices are now almost 20 cents lower than they were at the start of the war. And it's clear that this has not crippled the economy, that the economic indicators for the last couple of weeks have been very solid. The economic growth has been great. The labor market has been moving up. Consumer spending jumped 0.5% compared with last month. After adjusting for inflation, consumer spending has increased. Aggregate wages and salaries rose 0.25% in April and are up 4% from a year ago. Private sector wages and salaries rose 0.25% and 4% up from a year ago. So the idea that inflation is destroying Trump and destroying the midterm elections is simply not true. The American people are taking the inflation, gas prices in stride. They're coming down. People are understanding that they will come down. And Trump is going to let them come down by saying, I don't give a damn about the Straits of Hormuz. All I care about is the radioactive enriched material that Iran has, so that they don't have a bomb.
And I think that's where people also are understanding that these guys do not have a bomb anymore. So an extra couple of dollars filling up my car, I'll deal with that for a couple of months. I don't care, as long as I'm going to be alive to do it.
Yeah, and the United States has so increased its energy production.
Absolutely.
The strategy of drill, baby, drill, and not paying attention to climate change and fossil fuel restrictions is going to increase our gas supply and our oil supply so much that we're going to be immune to this stuff in the future.
Let me ask you a question. We talked about this. We should do this every show. What do you think if Kamala Harris was president right now? All these things that you think right now Israel will be blown off the map?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, look at the stat. The United States produced 4 million barrels of oil a day in 10 years ago. Now it's 14 million barrels of oil, about 4 million barrels more every day under Trump. And we're now allowing deep sea mining. We're allowing off-coast drilling. We're allowing the Alaska pipeline. We're moving fracking legislation every state that lets us, not New York, but other states. And the result of this is that the United States is becoming its own OPEC, its own energy economy. And we will not have to depend on OPEC or the Arabs for energy relief. We'll be able to do it ourselves.
You know, it would be a good TV show to have elections where Trump wins and you see what he's doing, and then all of a sudden you flash back to where Kamala wins, and they have a full show, an hour of what's happening to the country there.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Kind of like you go back. That would be a good
you look
show.
At two things, basically. The deportation of millions of people on the one hand, and the opening of the offshore and fracking and deep sea mining to oil production. And the combination of the United States becoming the world's largest oil producers, which we are now by a lot. Didn't used to be before Trump, but we are now. And the deportation of 3 million people that shouldn't be here, shouldn't have been here. And the pathology of decreasing class sizes, helping schools, and all of the changes that are coming about. Those two statistics, the increase in oil production and the deportation of people that shouldn't be here, are totally changing America.
Absolutely.
And by the way, they can change politics too.
No, hold on. It's bringing America back.
Yeah.
That's what's not changed. They've changed. The Democrats changed America doing this, bringing these people in and not drilling. And now we're going back to a beautiful America that we had 20, 30 years ago.
And the politics is going to change too. The concept that the House of Representatives is 50-50 and we need to draw these lines and gerrymander this district, that's all old. That this is the last cycle we're going to have to do that. Because the 2030 census is clearly coming in with tremendous gains for the red states.
Can we believe in that right now?
Yeah,
that
we
census?
can. I mean, it takes until 2030 for it to happen, although Trump may succeed in moving it up. But the point is that that the House of Representatives, if you make it a fair case, you eliminate the illegal immigrants who are counted in the population. They can't vote, but they're counted in reapportionment, and you change fundamentally the system. The Republicans will control the House of Representatives by 20 or 30 or 40 votes.
That's unbelievable.
There was a study the other day that said that if you had fair apportionment in the U.S. and you no longer had majority-minority districts and you no longer had left gerrymandering, the Republicans would control the House by about 30 or 40 seats. And I think that is the future that's likely.
You know what's amazing with this, Dick? It's gonna go fast. It's gonna go pretty quickly. That we're turning this around. Marcuse, whatever this guy's name, with the slow march, the long march, whatever, right? That took 50, 60 years. Trump is changing this in 4 years, 3 years, because so many people are now, because of you and talking about this so much, so many people are seeing that 50, 60 years of this. And it's like horrible. And now they all feel like, wow, like I said, I bet there's a lot of Democrats that sighed relief when he won.
When you combine throwing 3 million people who shouldn't be here out of the country, and then you have high taxes in the blue states and low taxes in the red states, and you keep the taxes low by keeping illegals out of the country, you're changing the fundamental dynamics of America, which is going to make the U.S. a conservative place, not a woke place.
Just the mindset alone. All right, we have to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk some more.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
So you heard that news, huh, just now?
Yeah, well...
That goes against what we just talked about.
No, they're saying it is, but it's not. What it is that it has always been discretionary for the DHS to decide who has to return to their home country to get a green card or to become a U.S. citizen. It's always been discretionary.
Yeah, but that seems like it.
The DHS said last week it's up to the discretion of each agent, and everybody reacted and said, "Oh my God, we all got to go back to our home country." And DHS calmed them down and said, "No, it's always been the policy to leave it up to each individual
Go
officer.
to the worst people first, the ones with the most crime, the ones with the most fame.
However you do it. The point is that there is no big new requirement that you have to go back to your home country. But that there may be, but it's discretionary, and you may see a move by immigration officials to require people to do that, and that's all the story is really about.
Let's go. You want to go to the
polls? I want to talk about something else. This poll that was taken by New York Times Siena poll, which is, I think, one of the most reliable, did a sample where they excluded Republicans or independents, and they only asked Democrats or Democratic-leaning voters, only asked Democrats. And they said, what do you think of the legislation being passed by the Democrats in Congress? Do you think that they're too left? Do you think they need to move to the center more?
Sure.
And they asked particularly about immigration and gender policy.
Oh my God.
And the Democrats who answered the poll, half of them, 47% of them, said, I don't like how left the Democratic Party has become. I want it to move to the center. 18% said I wanted to move further left. 20-something% said I like it as it is. But the point is that half of the Democratic voters in this country do not like their party moving to the left. Half of the Democrats in this country do not agree with their party on immigration or on gender identity. And this change, which is going to be reflected in the midterms, is enormous. It means that on the key issues that are affecting our country, the Democratic Party has moved so far to the left that it has left its own constituents behind, and that is why they're going to lose the election.
Do you think it's that strong enough that a good percentage of them will go to the right, to the Republican side?
Yes, I do.
Is that a possibility?
Yes, I do, and I think it is happening. But before it happens, they're going to vote that way.
What do you mean? What way?
The Democrats are going to vote
on
like
the
Republican.
right.
Yeah.
And see what plays.
Yeah. And I
Interesting.
think that's one of the big reasons Trump won in 24, and it's one of the big reasons that he's going to win in 26.
Right now.
And, yeah. And I think that this is this is one of the most significant polls I've ever seen, because it really shows that the Democratic leadership has left its constituency behind. Not the moderates, not the independents, not the minorities, not the Republicans, but the Democrat constituency has left their party behind.
Was it Reagan that said it? I didn't leave the Democratic Party; they left me.
Left me, yeah.
Was it Reagan?
It was, yeah. And in this poll, 36% of the black voters said the Democrats should move to the center, and 46% of the Latino voters said 46% said the Democratic Party should move to the center. So the black and the Latino vote and the liberal base of the Democratic Party is running out on them. And that is the huge change.
Well, the Latin, Spanish are left their countries, we say this all the time, because of they didn't like their government and the socialism and all that. And they're seeing that happen here. I don't understand the black community yet. We got to look into that for next week.
The answer there is gender. Black women are staying Democrat. Black men are becoming Republican. Because black women are basically saying, I want someone to support me, to take care of me, to protect me.
Marry the government.
Yeah.
Sort of.
And as a result, the black woman vice president, the black woman Supreme Court judges, and there is nothing going on for black men.
Interesting. Well, for Dick Morris, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. And thank you, Roxana, on the rocks. I think we did okay. Not bad. I wish we had a couple more callers, but you know how it goes. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
No. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
No. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Dick Morris Show. You can hear The Dick Morris Show Sundays at noon. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?